turn to our first presentation of the evening. Sören Schlegel is here. He's going to present something about rap on speed. I'm really curious what this is about. And Sören is an SAP and ABAP developer for almost 10 years, and he's also been working with HANA since 8 years. And his introduction to this presentation is that he's presenting how fast you can build nice and also complex scenarios with SAP RAP. And great that it rhymes. So,
yeah.
Die Bühne gehört dir.
All right, so good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending where you're listening from. I have the honor and also the task to be the first presenter today. So let's see how it goes. All right. So you should now see my screen, and we start first with a short presentation for the topic. Yes. So what am I doing today? What am I showing? I'm showing some live coding with SAP Steampunk. Who am I? I'm an ABAP developer for, yes, as I already said, almost 10 years. And the cool stuff today, I did also already some inside track presentations. And every time afterwards, I wanted to publish it to a GitHub repository, but I never did it. So this time I made it another way. I just published it first in GitHub and then did a presentation. So therefore, you have the GitHub link if you want to follow the coding and also to redo it afterwards. And you can also follow me on Twitter as typically. And that's all of my presentation. So now we start directly with a demo where I try to build a nice looking UI5 application using the good new SAP RAP. So as I already mentioned, all the stuff you can find on the GitHub repository, linked in the presentation. What's the scenario we want to build? So from SAP side, we know all the repositories and all the demos with the typical as-flight model. But the problem, nobody of us has a flight company. So not a typical use case or scenario for us. So I wanted to build something more, real world scenario. So what did I decide, or what did I plan? I have the SAP Cloud platform with the ABAP platform running on it with the SAP Steampunk. There's a possibility you can you have to build ABAP-based applications in the SAP Cloud Foundry environment. And for this scenario, I also wanted to use a side-by-side extension. So that means that I built a complete application on the RAP scenario, on the RAP world, but consuming data from an S/4HANA cloud system. So this was an idea by Gregor. Thanks for the hint. What's the intention? For everybody, I want to show what the cool tools in the new world can do, so that with the better tools and technology, we can build faster and better applications. That's the old intention behind. For those people not knowing RAP in short terms, RAP is completely based on CDS. The CDS is the first-class citizen in our the new SAP world and also in the RAP world, where we define our business object based on some CDS modeling. Then we define some behaviors. How can this business object behave? And implement our coding in this behavior implementation for this stuff. All right. And then we have the simple possibility with the new world, instead of SEGW, to define some service definitions, service bindings to publicate our service and our logic to the outside world, and also can use SAP UI5 as a possible UI for this. As I already said, I want to consume some data based on an S/4HANA cloud system. So general idea, I want to build an application for product ratings, like we all know it from Amazon and so on. idea, we have on the cloud platform, we have our product rating, but normally we don't want to replicate all our products to the cloud to offer the customers or the users this rating capability. We still have our product lists in our cloud S/4HANA cloud system. So for this, we just open the, now I have here the wrong stuff on it. We just go to api.subcode.com and we search for S/4HANA Cloud. What we find for this S/4HANA Cloud, and we said we have a cloud system where we want to consume our product. So just search for Product Master, and we find this wonderful service that can also directly be tested. Just click on the Try Out button. Yeah, first log in again. So, and then we have an endpoint on our service. And if you just click on execute, we do a simple OData call. And then we see here, okay, we find a list of a lot of products. And yeah, this looks fine. That's what we want to have. All right, so we keep this in mind for later development. The first stuff we want to make, we want to offer a table to store data to our product ratings. So we just log into the Steampunk system. Everybody can get it from the SAP Cloud platform. Right-click on our package we created before. Select a table, a database table. Just give it a name, subsit prod rating. So we have created our table, but it's, you don't want to see me typing all the complete stuff in it. So we just take some little information. What information do we need to save our product ratings? Okay, we need the rating, UUID, just a technical identifier. We need the information, which product we have. We need the rating as an integer value, it's a very simple case, and information about the person who is rating a product. So just copy this information. And after simply activating, then we say, okay, we have our database table. But as I already said, we need a CDS. Everything in RAP is based on CDS. In former days, we need to do a lot of manual work, but SAP evolved and also evolved the tools. So if you want to create a CDS view for this database table, just simply right-click on the table, say create new data definition. We then have a reference. Yeah, less typos would help. And say that we use a view entity. And then we have our view entity. And because we want also to say this is the entry point of our business object, our product rating business object, we have to call it we have to name it as a root view entity. Just simply save this. Okay, cool. We have our CDS view, part one. The next step is we want to say, okay, we need a behavior for this upcoming business object. So we say we need to define a behavior definition. Just right-click on the data definition, and then next, finish. Everything works. We say, okay, we have our create, update, and delete. And then we need here to say what is our persistence table. It's our ZSIT prod rating table. Then we say we have a log master. We activate all the stuff. And the next, after we have defined our behavior definition, we can say that we create a behavior implementation. We give this just a name like it's here. It's just a idea from SAP that we call behavior implementations BP. So behavior implementation, we have a business object based on a CDS entity, and we want to say what operations are available for this CDS or for this newly business object. And with the step before, we say that we have create, update, and delete capability, and then we say, okay, cool, we create our behavior implementation to add some custom logic. But at the moment, it's all fine. We don't even need a custom logic for this stuff because we have a so-called managed scenario. And with this managed scenario, everything works out of the box for this simple operations. After we have created our behavior definition, we can say, as next part, we need a so-called service definition. Okay, what do we need here? We give it also again a name. Set sit prod rating. Just give it a prefix. For what is our service definition? If we define an OData endpoint, then we have multiple, we could probably have multiple entities which we want to expose via this service, newly generated service endpoint. So for this, we need to define a service definition. Now we already have created our, created before our CDS data source. And the next step we need from this service definition, where we say what we expose, we need a service binding, which protocol we want to use. So service binding sit prod rating. Name. Just activate everything before you do the next step. Whoa. So now that we have our service binding defined, for the moment, we can only switch between OData, select OData v2 UI. In future, there will also be the possibility to simply create a new binding for the same service just for using OData v4 or perhaps something else coming in the future. And after everything is done and defined, and we can also have multiple versions for service binding. We just need to activate this. This will take some short time. In the meantime, we have to add something, some small forgotten stuff, because we have a UUID. So we don't have to want to handle a manual or to input a manual key. We just use this field numbering managed for the RAP business model to that we say, okay, we don't care about some generic keys. It should all be handled by the framework. So go to the behavior definition. And we can also add an alias. So in the meantime, the service has been activated for the first time. If we do a preview, so then we have the browser opens. We have to log on. And then we see, yes, not much stuff. We can say that we want to show the fields, but yeah, not completely, but we see a little bit so far. The next stuff we need, we are developing here Fiori Elements application, and for Fiori Elements, we also need some annotations. And without annotations, yeah, all the stuff won't look that nice. And for this, we have a bigger list of annotations already defined here. So just click on the data definition, say that we want to have a new metadata extension for this data definition. It's the same name, prod rating. And instead that you see me long typing here, I just simply copy all the stuff. And adapt the name here. So one little stuff missing. Okay, we want to build to define the annotation a separate so-called metadata extension file. Then we also need to say in our CDS that we allow this metadata extensions. Okay, let's just add this small annotation here. Add metadata.allow extensions true. Activate our CDS view. Then we reactivate our metadata extension. And then we can just go back to our, yeah, where is it? Did I close it? Okay. So when we see it here, without doing any coding in the front end, via the annotations, we have now some new names. And we see here, that's not a typical data element description because it just played around with. And so we have, instead of forename, we have Käse. And we don't have any product ratings. For this, we have the create button, but we still don't have a list of products we want to have and that we need. Where do we find this list of products? As I already said, we have it in our S/4HANA system in the cloud. So that's our service we looked at before. So just we scroll up. And if we look at the details, then we can have the possibility to download an API specification, so a so-called EDMX file. I already downloaded it, so that's a little bit easier. We can just say we use a service consumption model. So that's a possibility to say we have a system in our cloud and we want to consume, yeah, some service from somewhere else. So just give it a name again, product.cs for service consumption, products, product list. Okay, it's type O data, everything's fine. And then we have to select our EDMX file. We have to give it a prefix. And now this EDMX file, that's a complex XML file with all the information about our service we selected. And from this file, we see all the get all the metadata and see, okay, this service delivers multiple entities. We don't want all this complete stuff. We just select the product. Click on next. And hopefully I didn't forget anything. Next. So we now have this product list. The next step we need to consume this consumption model is to define a so-called custom entity. With this custom entity, we have the possibility to access, to say, okay, we have all the information about the DDIC for this object directly in our system. And for this, we look at the created entity. And we see here that this is service consumption data definition created by the wizard, but there is no logic behind. Set CE products. Next one. And we say here that we have a custom entity with parameters. And we fill this with some information we have about our product, but we don't need them all. Just do a small one, small subset. And the wizard only offers custom entities with parameters, but we don't need to create them with parameters. We can just say it like this. And the next problem behind is that's a custom entity that's not bind to a database table or to view or something like this. That's just a wrapper. We define some kind of virtual CDS view, and we have to take care about the logic that should happen behind. And for this, we have to implement a CDS class, an ABAP class, excuse me. And, oh, wrong place. Just create one like CE sit products. And this class is not existing at the moment. So the next time so that we can combine this CDS definition with the business logic behind, we have to create a new ABAP class. So there we already have the name here. Set CL CE sit products and CE implementation. And we can already also add the interfaces to this class. And something not had something I don't add to my cheat list, but it's okay. It should be rep query provider. Yes, here is it. So, and if we now want to do a select statement on an OData request against this custom entity, this class will be called with the method implemented by or delivered by this interface, this select method. So technically, it mostly works. And now we only have to take care about what we have to do in our select statement. So our select statement needs to do an OData call for the remote OData service in our S/4HANA cloud system. That's okay, a little bit more of typing, and we don't need too much time. I had some cheating here. Oops, here we have a source code library. Then we have our class. I already implemented, implemented it before. And just copy some stuff. That's not that much coding. It's just to receive all the parameters provided by the interface and handle it over to an own implementation method. That's one part. And the other part is we need also this method to get products. We also copy the whole stuff. And also here we need this some of the information provided here. So what's one of the important stuff we need? We need here some API key. Where do we find this API key? If we just go back to our service, we can click here on Show API Key, copy this one, enter it in our coding, in our method. So, and then hopefully, yeah, most of the stuff should probably work. Let's give it a try. And how can we consume all this logic behind this CDS, this custom entity? We have here our first defined CDS view. This one here, sit prod rating. And that's the behavior implementation here. Just wait a second. Exactly. And we have to add the association to the product. That's one part. And our view is called ZCIT ZCE products. Excuse me. That's one part, and now we also need the information that we want to have this association as a search help. So we say here that we have a product as association to expose exposing to the outer world. And okay, then we need the definition of the consumption of the value help definition in the metadata extension. We just scroll down, search for this coding, say here, okay, that's just the definition of the UI, that we have some text here. And then we also say that we have here this value help based on the entity ZCE products. And the next part is to expose it via the service binding. Already explained it via the definition. I already explained it before that we have here, that we need here to expose all the services that we want to be able to consume from the outer world. And then we do the just activation. We also activate our CDS view. And if we then just close one time our service binding and reopen it, then we see here that we have a new association to the product. Okay, just click on preview again. What did we do with this coding? Click on create a new rating. And now we see here a list of products. And this list of products is not coming from our S/4HANA steampunk system itself. It's just directly coming from the outer world, from our S/4HANA cloud system. And that's we took about half an hour, and for the complete development of this small use case where some real life reuse factor. Yes, that's so far. Okay, now we can just create some entry. We can search a product. We just select the product, we create it, and hopefully nothing explodes. Looks fine. If we go back to our list, then we see that we have now a new entry with some rating. You can just also edit it. And with some, a little bit more time, we can do some nice modifications to replace the rating with some stars or something like this. And yes, that's building a wrap application consuming S/4HANA data, S/4HANA Cloud data in almost 30 minutes.
Nice job, Sören. Thank you.
Welcome.
I hope there is also an applause icon, something. So unfortunately, it wasn't on the cards. But there are two questions that I picked up from the chat. I want to relate to you. Michael asks the question, I understood RAP to be more designed towards on-prem and CAP more for cloud. Correct or misunderstood?
Not that correct. You can also use CAP development for some on-prem, not on-prem on the ABAP NetWeaver stack, but you can use the RAP development for on-prem development and also in cloud if you have a steampunk system. And the steampunk system, okay, to be honest, it's a little bit more expensive than some small server on the Azure environment. I suppose Gregor is here our biggest expert to this topic concerning CAP. But you have both possibilities to use. And if you have, for example, hundreds of ABAP developers, and these hundreds of ABAP developers need to learn RAP for development on S/4HANA 1909 or S/4HANA 2020, then they are also with almost no time able to develop applications in the steampunk world, so in the SAP ABAP Cloud world.
Mm-hmm. Good. And then there was a question by Hendrik Neumann.
Yes.
Will it be faster to use Andre Fischer's RAP generator?
Would be, for this scenario, not that much, because one of the most time-consuming stuff is the consuming of the S/4HANA Cloud data. The RAP generator itself is a very cool tool and very time-saving. But my personal opinion is for everybody who starts with all this RAP development stuff should do it at least 1 or 2 times completely manually to understand how everything fits together before using some frameworks to make it easier. Because afterwards you change something, you want to add a new entity, you didn't know that they're existing at the moment you build it with the RAP generator, and then you are a little bit helpless, perhaps.
And then there's more like a comment from Thomas Wagner. It is dangerous. You tell the client you only need half an hour, and he will only pay you for half an hour next time. Better you say 2 weeks.
To be honest, for all the stuff, the first playing around to look at some problems I had during the development, for example, very important, if you use it with Web IDE, you don't have to use the facet in the annotations. Just
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Just to hopefully right screen. If you look at the metadata extensions we have here, this UI facet is not needed if you consume the service via the Web IDE. It generates it by itself. But if you don't have the Web IDE, just use all the RAP stuff, then you have to do it manually with the Eclipse. And it took me about 2 or 3 hours and multiple calls to understand that I need this 10 lines of coding. And for complete development, I needed about 6 to 8 hours for the first time, including also the documentation in the GitHub repository. Yeah, that's one point, the real doing. But if you say it as a business consultant, you don't get paid for making the hooks, the customizing. You get paid to know what you're doing. And it's also the same stuff if you need the time to get connected to this framework and to learn it and all the new stuff behind this.
Okay, thank you once again. And I think we head over and have a little look on Mike Meisters. Perhaps you want to comment, Mike? And after that, let's do our first yoga session.
Well, yeah. Honestly, I didn't understand too much of this nerd stuff, but I just picked up some of the words I heard and connected it to what I think could be making a little bit sense. So I will connect for all the speakers then later on a big canvas and put all of this unique sessions on this big canvas and then share it with you.